Gelert is the name of a legendary dog associated with the village of Beddgelert in Gwynedd, northwest Wales. The story of Gelert is a variation on the well-worn faithful hound folk-tale motif, which lives on as an urban legend. It is classified as Aarne-Thompson type 178A. Here, the dog is alleged to have belonged to Llywelyn the Great, Prince of Gwynedd, a gift from King John of England. In this legend, Llywelyn returns from hunting to find his baby missing, the cradle overturned, and the dog with a blood-smeared mouth. Believing the dog savaged the child, Llywelyn draws his sword and kills it. After the dog's dying yelp, Llywelyn hears the cries of the baby, unharmed under the cradle, along with a dead wolf which had attacked the child and been killed by Gelert. Llywelyn is then overcome with remorse and he buries the dog with great ceremony, yet he can still hear the dying yelp. After that day Llywelyn never smiles again. Poems and other interpretations. The story formed the basis for several English poems, among which are Beddgelert, or The Grave of the Greyhound by William Robert Spencer, written around 1800. Beddgelert by Richard Henry Horne. Gelert by Francis Array Tickner, and the dramatic poem Llywelyn by Walter Richard Castles. The tale is also alluded to by John Critchley Prince in lines 24-29 of his poem North Wales, Thou hast not trod with pilgrim foot the grounds / where sleeps the canine martyr of distrust, / poor Gelert, famed in song, as brave a hound / as ever guarded homestead, hut, or hall, / or leapt exulting at the hunt or a Euro unregistered trademark call, / as ever grateful man consigned to dust. Despite this, and despite the presence of a raised mound in the village called Gelert's Grave, historians do not believe that Gelert ever existed. It is recorded in Wild Wales by George Borrow, who notes it as a well-known legend. By Brewer's Dictionary of Phrase and Fable, which details versions of the same story from other cultures. And by the Nuttall Encyclopedia, under the anglicised spellings Gelert and Kilhart. John Fiske discusses Gelert and his myths and myth-makers, saying regretfully that as the Swiss must give up his tell, so must the Welshman be deprived of his brave dog Gelert, over whose cruel fate I confess to having shed more tears than I should regard as well bestowed upon the misfortunes of many a human hero of romance. He notes that to this day the visitor to Snowdon is told the touching story, and shown the place, called Beddgelert, where the dog's grave is still to be seen. Nevertheless, the story occurs in the fireside lore of nearly every Aryan people. The tale indeed appears in numerous cultures with minor variations. The Alpine Ligurian poem A Sacrifice Drive Can, written in Ligurian, tells of how a shepherd shot his sheepdog after finding it covered in sheep blood, only to later find a dead wolf in the stable. In India, a black snake replaces the wolf and a mongoose replaces the dog. In Egypt, the story goes that a cook nearly killed a wali for having smashed a pot of herbs, but later discovers that the pot contained a poisonous snake. In Malaysian folklore, a similar story involves a tame bear, kept by a Malay hunter as the guardian of his young daughter. As in the story of Gelert, the hunter returns home from an expedition, and finds his daughter gone and the bear covered in blood. Hastily thinking the bear has devoured his daughter, the hunter kills it with his spear, but later finds the body of a tiger, killed by the bear in defense of the hunter's daughter, who shortly emerges from the jungle, from where she took refuge. In the Disney movie, Lady and the Tramp is carried off to the pound after Aunt Sarah finds him in the baby's room with the cradle overturned. Luckily, Lady manages to show Jim Deere the big, dead rat behind the curtain, and they realize that the tramp saved the baby. Happily in this version of the tale, Gelert is saved in time. Gelert's Grave. It is now accepted that the village of Beddgelert took its name from an early saint named Gelert or Gelert, rather than from the dog. The grave mound is ascribed to David Pritchard, landlord of the Goat Hotel in Beddgelert in the late 18th century, who connected the legend to the village to encourage tourism. On the supposed grave of Gelert there are two slate memorials, one in Welsh and the other in English. The latter reads, Gelert's Grave. In the 13th century, Llywelyn, Prince of North Wales, had a palace at Beddgelert. One day he went hunting without Gelert the faithful hound, who was unaccountably absent. On Llywelyn's return, the truant stained and smeared with blood, joyfully sprang to meet his master. The prince, alarmed, hastened to find his son, and saw the infant's cot empty, the bedclothes and floor covered with blood. The frantic father plunged the sword into the hound's side, thinking it had killed his heir. The dog's dying yell was answered by a child's cry. Llywelyn searched and discovered his boy unharmed, but nearby lay the body of a mighty wolf which Gelert had slain. The prince, filled with remorse, is said never to have smiled again. He buried Gelert here. The spot is called Beddgelert. See also, Jock of the Bushveld, St. Gelert, St. Gwynedd Fort. References. Gelert the animated movie, borrows Wild Wales chapter XLVI, The Valley of Gelert, site about wolfhounds which asserts that Pritchard created the grave, John Fiske's Myths and Mythmakers, Old Tales and Superstitions interpreted by Comparative Mythology chapter 1, The Origins of Folklore. Further reading, Castles, Walter Richard. Llywelyn. Retrieved October 29, 2011. Dramatic poem, Curry, Charles Madison. Clippinger, Earl Ellsworth. Beddgelert. Or, The Grave of the Greyhound, poem by William Robert Spencer. Children's Literature. Chicago, Rand McNally, pages 436–437. Retrieved October 29, 2011. Horn, Richard Henry. Beddgelert Ballad Romances. London, Charles Oliver. Pages 187. Retrieved October 29, 2011. Prince, John Critchley. North Wales, The Poetical Works of John Critchley, Prince 1. Manchester, Abel Hayward and Son. Pages 326. Retrieved October 29, 2011. Poem, Ticknor, Francis Array. Gelert, The Poems of Francis Array Ticknor. New York and Washington, The Neal Publishing Company, pages 85. Retrieved October 29, 2011. Poem,